Tom O'Connor. He's in New York City and he's a senior foreign policy writer for Newsweek. Tom, good to have you with us on TRT World. Now, a trilateral is taking place, as we said, in Tokyo. Are we expecting anything substantive to come out of this meeting?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. I think that part of this meeting really is to establish a bottom line among these three allies in the region, of course, with different perspectives on the issue. Now, we know that the U.S. and South Korea traditionally, under the Trump administration, have pursued quite an ambitious effort to establish peace with North Korea, sanctions relief, essentially. And with Japan, it's a little different because the relationship there had never really warmed during that time. In fact, in some ways, it got worse. So the U.S., I think, right now is trying to see if it can get these two allies on the same page, or at least a working level page in order to advance the North Korea file. The problem right now is it just seems that the Biden administration, of course, has a host of other issues it's dealing with. And I think that there'll be a lot of attention to see whether the Biden administration has the bandwidth or the priorities to continue dealing with this issue moving forward.
Yeah, there's a lot going on for the Biden administration, but of course, a response is necessary following that test of that strategic cruise missile. Now, as you'll know, Tom, and as our viewers should be reminded, this always comes about just around the time of those war games conducted between South Korea and the United States. This year, they were largely virtual. I mean, is there ever going to be a world where South Korea and the United States pause those war games to try and improve relations with the North?
Well, I'll say that right now we're seeing a lot of the same stuff. We're seeing sanctions, we're seeing joint military exercises, missile launches. So you're right. In a lot of ways, this is the same old playbook. And the same old playbook has produced the same results, basically the stagnant tensions on the Korean Peninsula. Meanwhile, North Korea continues to advance to create ever more advanced weaponry. Now, the first time this cycle has been broken in recent memory was actually under the Trump administration. We saw a creativity, we saw an ambition, and of course, it ultimately did not turn out. But immediately once the Trump administration accepted those talks to meet Chairman Kim in Singapore at the time, and then afterwards in Hanoi, we'd seen the dynamic change radically. We saw 3 inter-Korean summits. There'd only been 2 previously over a matter of a number of years. So I think that there needs to be some sort of course correction here as far as the U.S. policy towards North Korea and perhaps the regional policy as well. And the Biden administration has acknowledged this as much. He's said that, well, at least his White House has said that he wants to deviate from the Obama-era strategic patience and the Trump-era maximum pressure. But I think we'll have to see moving forward what that policy will look like.
I mean, creative under Trump is exactly right. We'll all remember that promo video that was played when they first met. It was incredible. And I do wonder whether the Biden administration will have the space to be able to be a bit creative, because the danger, of course, is with a strategic cruise missile like the North have, is that the calcifying of the relationship leads to the North getting even more upset at the lack of engagement. And then there's the risk of error.
Absolutely. Miscalculation is very high, but miscalculation is much higher when parties aren't in contact. And we know right now that the U.S. and North Korea have not really had much contact with the Biden administration, if any at all, actually. So it's a promising step that the Biden administration is engaging allies on this in order to study their interests and ask their concerns. But at some point, there needs to be a direct engagement between North Korea and the U.S. And of course, right now, it's hard to tell which side might be overplaying its hand. North Korea has said that many times it's ignoring the Biden administration context. So for the North Korean side, there also has to be a willingness to understand that with the Moon administration, South Korea's last month's pretty much coming up, there may be a president in South Korea coming up who's more conservative, less willing to engage, and that this is a very important time for North Korea to also want to be a part of these talks, especially given domestic circumstances right now in the country.
You're exactly right. Okay, Tom O'Connor from Newsweek magazine, thank you very much for being with us.